Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and honored guests, I'm Shane Kofer, Interim Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Northeastern Illinois University, and I warmly welcome you to the Audrey Reynolds Distinguished Teaching Award Lecture. In 2008, Dr. Audrey Reynolds, Professor Emerita of Linguistics, established the Audrey Reynolds Distinguished Teaching Award. This award is given annually to a tenured member of Northeastern's faculty who best demonstrates innovation and high teaching standards and positively impacts students at Northeastern. And may I ask Audrey Reynolds to stand? She's here. So thank you, Audrey, for making this happen for us and available. So it's my pleasure to introduce the 2023 Audrey Reynolds Distinguished Teaching Award recipient, Dr. Durene Wheeler. Dr. Wheeler's selection. Woo-hoo. Dr. Wheeler's selection as this year's recipient is a testament to her unwavering dedication to excellence in teaching and innovation and her profound impact on the educational landscape of Northeastern Illinois University. Dr. Wheeler's distinguished career spans multiple departments, including educational inquiry and curriculum studies, African and African American studies, and women's gender and sexuality studies. With 17 years of teaching experience at Northeastern, Dr. Wheeler embodies the core values of compassion, cultural awareness, and community building in her pedagogical approach. Her commitment to staying current in educational practices and understanding the diverse needs of our student body is truly commendable. Dr. Wheeler's contributions extend far beyond the classroom, as evidenced by her previous role as director of the Angelina Pedroso Center for Diversity and Intercultural Affairs, where she gained invaluable insights into the nuances of our student community. Today, Dr. Wheeler will present Let's Talk About Teaching, Creating Community in the Classroom. Her expertise and passion for fostering inclusive learning environments will inspire us all. Before we proceed with the lecture, I'd like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Dr. Wheeler on this well-deserved honor. Your dedication to the art of teaching and your profound impact on our university community is truly admirable. Let us warmly welcome Dr. Wheeler. She takes the stage.
Okay, so first and foremost, I want to thank Audrey Reynolds for creating this award. So let's give her a round of applause. And I also want to thank the Audrey Reynolds Foundation and all the selection committee and team that enabled me to be standing here before you, because there were some phenomenal colleagues, and I feel so honored and privileged to be the one selected for 2023. So thank you all, selection committee, for all your hard work. Let's give them a round of applause too to what y'all do. Okay, so basically, I am asking you guys to think about this and look at this in a critical fashion, because this is a paper that is in progress. So I am presenting to you my passion. I am presenting to you how I get down with my students today. And I am very proud of the relationships that I build with my students. Come on, baby. So first and foremost, giving honor to the God who is the head of my life, giving honor to my esteemed mother, Miss Mary, who God selected her to give me life, and everything I know about the will of fire and passion and persistence and being bold is for her. And anybody that don't understand will of fire, my anime and Naruto fans, shout out right there. So basically, I have been so blessed in my career. I have been so blessed in my upbringing and just in my whole educational journey. And these are just a few of the awesome people coming here to Northeastern. I can't believe I've been here 17.75 years, according to Workday, right? And and day one when I got here, like Dr. Kenneth Addison, Dr. Barbara Scott, Dean Muriel Higgins-Duster, Dr. Wamushi Njogu, I apologize for saying your name, and the late transition Dr. Conrad welcomed me, loved me, and nurtured me into the Black woman you see standing before you today, who is fierce about her students and even fiercer about her friends and colleagues. So don't mess with the people I love, point blank period. I am so appreciative of my ancestors who I stand on, and I am so appreciative of my students that I get to teach and I get to work with and I get to learn about who I am and how to be a better Durene and a better instructor because of who y'all are and what y'all tell me to do. And finally, I'm just really thankful to those whose this land belongs to, and because of colonization and white supremacy, they aren't where they need to be. So I shout out to our ancestors here and in the past, and I want to just say my acknowledgments for that. Come on, boo. Y'all, this thing be working my nerves here. Okay, so today I'm the kind of person I like to let you know where we are going. I'm going to accomplish 3 things with you today. I want to talk to you about how who you are and what you believe in your teaching impacts the kind of classroom that you can develop, impacts the kind of curriculum and content that you think about, therefore is going to impact how you build community, and how you think about community, and how you foster that in your class. And I want to tell you why community building is important. Okay, that's a hot mess. That's like the GPS. You like, I didn't ask you to say something. But anyway, so, and the third thing I want to do is leave you with some things that I do in my classes that my students, when I read my student evaluations or when I talk to them, have told me this is what works. This is why they participate in my class. This is why they're excited to come to my class. So like I said, first and foremost for me is who I am and what I believe, and thinking about this concept of positionality. And positionality is defined as how our world and our circumstances and our bodies and identities, red leather, yellow leather, identities impact us and help us how we see the world, interact, and engage in the world. The other thing that I think is very important is our philosophy. What is our teaching philosophy? What do we believe or know or go into the classroom with how students learn and what teaching and learning is and how it's going to impact? And if we have preconceived notions about certain groups and certain individuals about what their ability and things like that is, that impacts how you're going to show up. Next slide, please. And so like I said, you can read for yourself, y'all all grown. So this is my identities, and this is my philosophy, and these are shaped. I want to tell you a little story about little Durene Wheeler. So these are shaped by a young girl that was raised in urban Cleveland, Ohio, and then later moved to Aubrey, Arkansas, which is not even on the map, and then Marianna, Arkansas, which is where I went to high school. And I went from being all self-independent, riding public transportation when it was 13 cents, y'all, so that tell you how old I am. 13 cents to ride public transportation, not $2.50 or $3.50, 13 cents, young people. And taking those trips in that train and doing that kind of stuff, and then moving to rural Arkansas where I had to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning to be at school at 8 o'clock. Because the yellow bus was going around on the back dirt roads, picking up everybody. Then you get dropped off at the school, you know, the elementary school where little kids get dropped off, and us middle school and high school kids get on a separate bus, and then we go to Marianna to the high school. And this was seriously de facto segregated schools. And even though it was 1980, people acted like it was Jim Crow era in the 40s and the 50s. So think about me, y'all, 14 in Arkansas. Like, y'all know that's hot mess ready to happen, right? So anyway, I go to 8th grade, and because I had algebra in the 7th grade in Ohio, they wanted to put me in the 9th grade. And I was like, I'm not going up there with those big old girls to the 9th grade. Like, no. And then me and my best friend, Yvette Harris, had said back in 3rd grade, we were going to college together. So I couldn't go a year ahead of her. So I ended up being in the 8th grade, adding and subtracting numbers when I was just doing a year before algebra. And I tell this story to my students because it helps them understand who I am and where I come from. But I understand how you can have educational experiences that can stag your learning, that can impact the potential and how high you could possibly fly. And all of those things impact my philosophy and impact how I walk into my classroom. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the love of my life, Bell Hooks. I was introduced to her work as an undergrad in a class with Dr. Yvonne Williams and Black Women in Contemporary America. And that was the first time that I took a class where we sat in a circle so we could see everybody, where she asked us what we thought, what we felt, what about the curriculum spoke to us, what were our opinions, what did we disagree with. And from that day, I said, if I ever teach, I need to teach like this. We never missed that class. We showed up, we were ready and on fire, and we were all transformed after leaving that class. And most of us said, the only reason why we took this because we had to, it's elective. But by the time we left, we were so appreciative of the knowledge that we learned. And bell hooks and teaching to transgress, being exposed to that in 1994 during my master's program, and then later pedagogy of hope prior to finishing my doctoral program, really set the stage in addition to my own schooling experience for how I wanted to show up in my classroom. I wanted to be that guide on the side, not that sage on the stage that think they know everything and nobody can come in and teach them, because our students can teach us too. And that is very important that you think about that as you're trying to create community in your classroom. Next slide, please. So community building and the classroom. So basically, when we think about community, we need to think about, and I'm one of those people, let's define it. So we're defining community as a fellowship of folks with like opinions, attitudes, and goals. And we're fellowshipping with each other for a singular purpose, a common purpose, okay? But that doesn't say that we can't have different perspectives and different ideas and different way we look or different way we show up. Because diversity also is a strength for us. But when we are trying to find community, we also need to find what do we have in common to move this class forward, to move this goal forward, to move this mission forward, to move this plan forward. Everybody can't be going in all different directions. When the track is going this way and you try to go that way, y'all not gonna get very far. So sometimes commonality is needed, but we never squelch the diversity that is represented within our students and the different ways that they learn, the different ways that they show up, and the different ways that they construct and produce knowledge. Next slide, please. So these are some definitions that we're working with when we think about, these is what I'm working with when I'm thinking about community. And I'm particularly fond, like I said, of that feeling of fellowship with others. Because I feel like when you're trying to create a community, whether it's in an organization or a classroom or any environment, you need to find out, what do y'all have in common? Where can y'all come together on a purpose or a direction or a mission? And that happens when you do low-risk activities with your students. When you start day one saying, who is in the audience here? Who is in my class? What motivates you? What makes you tick? Why are you even in this class? And no shade and no shame needs to be given, but you utilize that first day and the first weeks and continually, and we're gonna talk about that, continually to foster and constantly create community, because you're bringing together, if you're lucky nowadays, 22 students in your class. That's what I'm saying, if you're lucky. If you're lucky, you got 22. Most times I'm working with 10 and thanking Jesus, okay, my class went. I can get my money, my class went. But if you think about it, whatever the number, 6 to 30, because I'm thinking about people in certain K through 12 schools, they dealing with 30 and 36 people in the class. But whatever the number is, you need to know who your students are. You need to take time to find out whether you with them for 2 weeks, 6 weeks, or 16 weeks. Who are you spending that hour and 20 minutes or that 3 hours a week with? And they paid their money for you, so you need to show up your best. And that's that other piece where how we show up. If I came in, hey y'all, how y'all doing? We're gonna talk about community. Y'all down with that? Versus how I came here, how y'all doing? Y'all happy to be here today? Yeah. I'm happy for y'all to be here today. Thank you for being here today. Did that energy not feel different? Because think about me teaching a class at 7:05 to 9:45 at night, y'all. Or 4:15 to 6:55. These folks ain't ate, they just came from work, they probably dehydrated, people been working on their nerves all day, and you want them to like pop on the Zoom or come into class and be articulate and participate? You better show up. You better motivate me to want to be a part of this. And if you ain't happy to be here, why should I be? If you are not passionate about what you are teaching and care about it, why should I care? Okay, next slide. So let's talk about what gets in the way of creating community before we talk about the benefits and characteristics. So we have to really, really think about what practices and policies within our institutions represent and show that we are committed to equity, to inclusion, to diversity and diverse voices, diverse minds, diverse ways of thinking and being. Because we all know here at Northeastern, we had some moments where people can't appreciate people's diverse way of being and speaking and showing up in the world. But it's all needed. It's a place for all of us, okay? But we have to think about that. Does our handbook, our syllabus, how we operate with our students, are those things in sync with promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, but also dealing with it when the contract is broken? When the social contract has been broken, do we deal with that? When our students come to us saying that I was in a class and the teacher made a statement that some people come here the right way and other people come here illegally or the wrong way, and you need to look in the mirror and see, are you the illegal or are you the one who came here the right way? This was said in a class here, y'all, I lie not to you. This was my indoctrination into the Pedroso Center. I wasn't in that job 3 weeks, and a student came to me with this. So it's real, that authority and power differential that can take place in the class. And are you minimizing it or are you using it and abusing it? When you think about your background and your perspective, we talked about this. Who are you? What do you believe? And how are you showing up? Because that also dictates what you're going to have as content, who your authors, who your students are reading, what kind of activities they do. If you got that mindset that a test is the only way you can assess somebody's knowledge, you need to come to my class. You need to hire me as your coach. Because that is not real. And even my brothers and sisters in the sciences, with all due respect, I worked with folks on a STEM project and we found other ways. I know testing is part of the graduate and the medical school and the professional experience, but there is always an alternative option if you look for it. Okay? I'm getting preachy, I'm sorry. So that leads us to the accessibility of content. Like, do I see myself in your curriculum? I remember when I first started teaching here, and I teach history and philosophy, one of my favorite. I love this class. I could show up and show out in this class. Me and my students have a great time. And my evaluations first semester was like, I didn't know this was no Black women's history, Latino history class. I didn't know I was got to be learning about Native Americans. I was like, you're supposed to be knowing about history. And these educational historical experiences impact why we are the way we are today. And you want to be a teacher? A teacher is a leader. A teacher is a public servant. Get that right, y'all. You doing the Jesus washing feet, okay? You have to be in these schools today, all things to these young people sometimes. And those of us in higher ed have to do some of this same stuff, and we forget about that. We think because they in college, they don't need that. But some of them still need it because they haven't gotten it. I tell my students in 307 and 407 in Psychology of Learning and Instruction that you are inheriting the student that did or did not get what they needed before the person that got. So if I'm in first grade and I'm coming to your second grade class and I didn't learn how to read for Miss Brittany, and Miss Brittany didn't care if I learned how to read or not, guess what? I'm showing up in your class and I can't read. But yet I've been socially promoted to you. But that's a whole nother class, so I'm not gonna go down there. And like I mentioned earlier, your methods of assessment and evaluation need to be multiple. Build in informal ways to assess how your students learn. I do this through in-class activities where these students have to let me know that they understand the readings. And I don't want to give it away because they might be watching, but Thursday night I have this activity that I'm on fire about for my class so that they can show me how they understand the Black Women's Club movement. They understand why we need Black activism in the 60s and the 70s. This is my AFAM 200 class. And then in my 305 class, I got another activity for them where I told them they got to be ready to channel their inner child because we're going to be doing something creative. But these are 3-hour classes. If I stood up there doing what I'm doing to y'all, they'd be like, Dr. Willer, holla, okay? We'll catch you later. Next slide, please. So when we want to build community, research is showing us that certain things we need to have when we're trying to build community. There is so much out there that is talking about, and Teachers College Press does a great job with Garrison's study about the community of inquiry model, where they talk about there's a social presence that needs to take place where you attend to how the classroom is set up, the environment of the classroom. Is it welcoming? Is it where, like I'm in a class now, I had a fit the other class, and I was like, I can't get to y'all when y'all in the groups, so we need to get a new class. Those things impact how you do your class. I know my people always have to be in a circle because I like when we can see each other's faces when we're in that large group discussion and talking. But that also builds a level of trust, and it calls them indirectly, y'all, they gonna have to pay attention. Cause think about it. They can't be flipping on their phone, we in a circle, everybody can see, they gonna be like, ooh, Dr. Wheeler, look at her. So you can't be doing that. So and I always tell them it's a method to my madness. Next slide, please. So, Bell Hooks, like I told y'all, she's one of my sheroes. I was reading through her work and teaching to community, and she led me to Mr. Palmer here. And I read this book, and I was like, okay, God, I know you're speaking to me. This chapter is coming together, woo, woo, woo. And it helped me understand that when we're teaching, we're seeking truth. And that's what Palmer is talking about, is our classrooms are about seeking truth, exposing young people and whoever we're teaching to knowledge that they don't have. And we're just supposed to be that facilitator of that. And we need to work with them about how they are understanding and coming to construct and produce knowledge from what we're exposing them to. And I just love the way of how he talks about promoting classes that are humanizing versus classes that are so caught up in the grade or so caught up in, you know, some of the technical stuff that these institutions makes us get bogged down in, versus the person that's sitting there, that group, and what we can do to help them understand how this connects to their real life. This connects to their community. This connects to teaching them problem-solving skills that they can use to take back to their home, take back to their community, take back to whatever they care about. Next slide, please. And so for me, after going through the literature, I came up with my own ways that I feel that signify what I consider a critical and a compassionate classroom. And so people need to feel like they belong. They need to feel connected to you. Because how many young people, how many of my students are here? You ain't gotta raise your hand, I ain't trying to put no shade on you. If you don't like your professor, how many of you like, I ain't going to that class today? You ain't have to put your hand up, boo. You like, I ain't going to that class today. But if you like that professor, and if you like, you know what, every time we go it's something different. It's something exciting. I'm not showing up there and I haven't read because Dr. Wheeler might call on me. I ain't showing up there and I haven't watched that documentary because she might have us act out parts of it or a scenario to see if, you know, how we understand it. And I had a student tell me, and I felt like this was like the optimum compliment. He was like, he's like, your class, the only class I don't miss. I said, what? We got to get you to go to the other ones. And he was like, then you better teach them how to teach. And I said, oh, Shazam. You know? And you know how God brings things to you when you feel like you ain't doing what you need to be doing. You not where you supposed to be at. And that student that day really helped me. Like, yeah, you supposed to be right where you at, Miss Thing. You supposed to be teaching. That's where you shine. You supposed to be teaching. Next slide. So what I think is very important, and I thank my sisters, Dr. Perlow, Dr. Pathia, Dr. Holland, for helping me understand that what I do is phenomenal. And I also thank the Audrey Reynolds folks, because a lot of times you don't feel like you're seen. And Northeastern, I hate to say this, is a place that a lot of times you bust your butt, but you do not feel seen. But I'm the kind of sister, like I told my sister here one time, I sent her a text and she said she felt like it was gaslighting, and I kind of got salty with her. But I was like, I work for my good Lord. I work so my Creator can say, well done, Durene. And I work, like I said, for my positionality, because I had teachers that poured into me from kindergarten to college. So I had role models that showed me how you love on students. I had role models that showed me how you pump and uplift a student and you work with their families and their communities, not against them. I had role models that helped me understand. You sit a young person down and be like, what do you need to succeed? And so scaffolding is a big thing for me. Because I feel like once I know where you are and where you want to be, then we just use those 16 weeks or those 8 weeks or those 6 weeks if it's summertime to get you there. Because I firmly believe that everybody can be their best self if they're willing to put in the work. And recognize there will be obstacles. And that's when you be like, I do my dance. Get up under my feet, Satan. Get behind me. All right, so let's talk about what we do in the class. Next slide, please. So I need to shout out to my sisters and to Black women, because liberatory pedagogy, let's get a round of applause. Dr. Perlow here, Dr. Bethia, Dr. Scott is not with us today, but I think she's online. This experience working with them has gotten me to the point where I had the courage to even be standing before y'all, to even be writing, to even be thinking about sharing what I do in the class as valid. And working with the authors in this book, and if y'all haven't got this check, you need to check it out, because it shows you how to love on your students, but create critical thinking and consciousness raising classrooms. And it shows you how to be an educator no matter where you are. Because everybody don't have a formalized classroom, but it doesn't mean they're not holding court and they're not teaching. So thank you, my sisters. Next slide, please. So this is some Dr. Ann Aviles, who we kind of ran away from Northeastern, but that's a whole nother conversation. She introduced me to this sister. Oh my God, y'all. So like I was writing and doing my stuff, and then I come across this and I'm like, oh my God. Dr. Donavius is putting theory to my practice. The first day she talks about grounding and what that means to express to the students the kind of content that they're going to be exposed to and the kind of classroom and expectations that each of you have of one another. But she also gives you blueprint to how to teach them to be brave, to say what they scared to say, and be in a room with resilient empathy that is going to be accepting of that, so we can use that as a teachable moment to grow. A teachable moment to grow, not to punish. Let me say that again. Just the Baptist preacher in me. Teachable moment to grow, not to punish. And when I saw the things that she talked about, I was like, I've been doing this. So this is true theory to practice. So I just wanted to shout out to her and let people know about that text. Next slide. And I'm almost done, y'all. So these are what I do. And like I said, the first day of class, the first week of class, we hit it. We set up our norms. The students know what to expect. We establish interactions. Go to the next slide. I'm gonna show you this is what they see. This is my first day agenda for most of my classes, and I'm letting them know right off the bat who they are and who I see them as. So I'm telling them, without telling them, that I already love you. I already got your back. And I tell them, once you're my student, you are always my student. So I got students that they go into the doctoral programs, they got christening, they grown folks now, and they are still my students if they need a letter of recommendation. And the other thing, shout out to the students, let me tell you this, ask people, can they give you a good recommendation? A good recommendation, a quality recommendation that's gonna shine a positive light on you. Don't be like some of my friends and colleagues that they just ask for us for a recommendation. And some people are shady. They'll write you a not so nice recommendation and submit that and not tell you that's what they wrote. And then you're like, why didn't I get into that grad program, or why didn't I get that job? So we don't want that. So you want a good recommendation, okay? The other thing that I think this also does for them is it helps them know this is what we're doing today. And I do that for every class. I like them to know where we're going. And I'm not so rigid that if something happens in the news or community or society, that we take the time to pause and check in to the social emotional of what's going on with my students before we proceed. Because maybe that needs to take the back burner, and for that day, I need to tend to where my students are because of what just happened. And that happened when certain people who will not be named got elected president. That happened when DACA was under attack. That happened when events against individuals pop up in the news and people bring that, or something happens within our own city in a neighborhood of somebody that happens to be in my class. I need to attend to them because we got 16 weeks. But right here, right now, they need something else. You got to be flexible and fluid. Next slide. The other thing they do is they know who I am, where I'm coming from, and then I want to know who they are. And we spend time on this. And one student was like, I've never been in a class where the whole first class was we got to know who was in the class with us. We got to know things about other students and what they think and what they feel about. And my students are required to know each other's names, just like I got to know your name. Y'all got to know each other's names. So when we're in class or on Zoom, see, they can cheat on Zoom because, you know, they had a little name thing. But when we in class, if you calling on somebody when we playing a game, you got to be able to say, oh, that is Miss Cindy versus her right there. Next slide, please. And I take time introducing and letting them know who I am and how I teach and how I'm going to show up. We go through the syllabus because that is our contract with one another, and we highlight this is what you can expect from me and this is what I expect from you. And I let them know what it means to be in my hybrid course because different people do different things. And a lot of people are like, why you go through the syllabus? Why you go through D2L? A lot of students might be coming back and they don't even understand what a D2L is. And then they be like, and I say desire, they're like, oh, that's what that is. Okay, I got you, Dr. Wheeler, I got you. But how can they get to the learning if these things are in the way? Okay, quickly, next slide. When I say you continue it through, every week we have some kind of check-in, and it's a different prompt every week. This was one of the prompts. I also have what some of my colleagues say they hate, the 1 to 5 scale. But when I say 1 is here, it's like I explain it. So here, 1, Dr. Wheeler, I'm here. Don't ask me no questions. Be thankful that I'm sitting in your class right now, okay? 2, I am okay. And I might participate, but there's some stuff going on, Dr. Wheeler, so give me a pass if I'm a 2 and I'm okay. And 3, I'm hopeful. Everything ain't fabulous and wonderful, but I'm hopeful and I'm glad to be in class today. 4, I am good, Dr. Wheeler, yeah, and I'm ready to participate. 5, I am awesome and ready for the world. Bring it on. And we do that. But that's just one of the ways. You can't keep doing the same thing, okay? Next slide. And so getting back to the practices and norm, like I talked earlier, I have class experiences, activities. I use documentaries, I use films, I use autobiographies to help hone in and help them see the layered approach of what it is I'm teaching and connecting the theory to the practice again. And I reflect on what I do because I read my student evaluations. I talk to my colleagues. I go and see what they do and see how phenomenal it is. And I'm like, can I steal that? Can I borrow that? Can I use that? But the other thing is that I think people forget about is what is your relationship when they leave your class? How do you connect and follow? Are you going to a program that they're doing? If they're in a student organization or something here on campus, how are you supporting them? I had one student, he was in jazz, and he told us about it because I always ask for announcements and things like that. He told us about it. And I showed up, and y'all would have think I gave him a Mega Million winning ticket. But I just wanted to support him. I just wanted him to know that I care about you outside of just being a learner. I care about you as a human being. And that's what I think we're missing. Next slide. So I'm concluding with, I started with my girl, I'm gonna conclude with her. And I have some quotes that I would like the students to read that I wanna show up right now. And then we'll open it up for questions and comments. So next slide, and if I can have a student read this, and this is from my student evaluations.
Dr. Wheeler is incredible. She cares so deeply about her students and learning and did a great job making a short summer course not overwhelming while still incredibly rewarding.
Thank you. Next slide. Next student.
The instructor is a major strength of this course. She is very knowledgeable, compassionate, engaging, and offers dynamic instruction. It was such a joy to be part of this class. I'm honored.
Thank you. Next student. Last one. What did y'all read for me?
The
Thank
student
you.
that worked in on day one is vastly different than the student that at the end of the course, principle, method, and idea, but open up a framework to create equitable, meaningful class environment. Students learn materials, but also learn from Dr. Willow instruction, attitude, and class structure, which complements the material.
Thank you. And I think that's the last one. So these are my references. Next slide. Thank you very much. Next slide. Thank you very much.